Rachel and I'm a homeschool mom to 2 boys. We just finished our 3rd and 5th grade and we will be starting our 4th and 6th grade on July 1st. And today's video is going to be all about state testing and how we do that in our homeschool and where I get our state tests from. We're from the state of Washington, and in the state of Washington, once our child is 8 years old, we are supposed to either give them a state test each year or have a yearly assessment. Every state's going to be different, and I don't really know much about the other states. I really only pay attention to Washington's, but I will share some links down below on where you can check what your state's homeschool laws are. For Washington, a really helpful website is going to be WashingtonHomeschoolOrganization.com, and I will link them below as well. I get a lot of my information from them, and it's just a really good resource to have. So I have been looking at, it's called WHO, but Washington Homeschool Organization, for a few years, and they are who I found out about the Family Learning Organization, which is where I purchase our state tests from. Now in Washington, we do have the choice between state test or assessment. At the time when my oldest turned 8, seemed simpler to me to just do the state test, and because I'm a creature of habit, that is what we have done every time. And on the Family Learning Organization website, you will find resources for state testing, assessments, and test prep if that is something that you're looking for. I do believe they offer some online state testing, though I have never used those, so I can't quite say how those work, but they offer 5 different tests to choose from. The 5 on the website are all approved by Washington State. Some state tests may not be approved by all states, and so you will want to check with your state. But Family Learning Organization does share a link to check for your specific state to see if these tests would work for you. One nice thing that they do have on there is a test comparison chart where you can look at all the different tests. They either have a PDF, or if you're thinking about a couple, you can just pick a few and they'll kind of set it out the comparison for you, and so that you can decide which test that you want to go with. At the time, I did pick the Terra Nova 2nd edition. I can't remember why I chose that, but because I'm a creature of habit, that is what we have stuck with, and we are currently, right now, in the week of our state testing, and this is our 4th year of using this company. On their website, they also offer an assessment program, and so they have 2 options to choose from. Either you have what's called a checklist, and you just go off of their own checklist. They say that's really good if your child is mostly sticking to their grade level or a certain grade level. And then they have one that's called a freestyle, and you kind of get to pick and choose a bit more, I believe. I've never used them, but they do have that available on their website. And then you will send all of that stuff according to their lists to them, and then they will do the assessment for you and send it back. But again, we've never used that, so I can't quite talk about how that process is, but I can talk about the state test and the one that we use, which is the Terra Nova 2nd edition. Now, this is so simple to use, and it's just really, really convenient, which is so nice. I think when I first knew we were going to need to do state testing, I thought I would have to take my kids somewhere and have them do it at a school building. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect, but this is wonderful because you can buy it at any time. And then what you do is you can schedule when you want to take your state tests. So for us, we always do our state tests the last week of June. And so I think I bought this back in May, but I told them I wanted to have our state test day be June 24th. And so I purchased it in May, and they did not ship it till it was time for us to use it. And then once we get the test, we get to hold on to it. I can't remember exactly, maybe it's 10 days or 2 weeks, but then we mail it back to them. They grade it, and then they send me the results. So when it comes in just a package, and I went ahead and I bought 2 tests this year. I bought 3rd grade and I bought 5th grade, both in the Terra Nova 2nd edition. And both of those were $43 a piece. And so I paid a total of $86. I'm looking at my invoice and I don't see that I had to pay shipping and handling or sales tax. So I paid a total of $86, and then I will probably have to pay shipping when I mail it back. So that was the cost for the state tests. And in the state test, you're going to get a couple things. You're going to get the actual test booklet. You're going to get where they get to put their answers. And then for the third grade one, they will also have sort of an information packet that what they call the proctor, who is the teacher, the parent going through this test with your kid, will go through and talk through the test with the kids in certain spots. They tell you exactly what to say. That it's really simple. And these tests are broken into 10 different categories. And each category is going to be given a certain amount of time. So I can just set the timer. They have a certain amount of time to work on that subject. For example, spelling gets 15 minutes, vocabulary gets 15 minutes. There's 2 parts to the language arts, and I think they're both 40 or 50 minutes are allowed. There's 2 parts to math. There's a science and a social studies, and there's a couple things. There's 10 categories there. But I set a timer and we just do one section at a time. And how it works for us is it typically only takes us 3 days. We don't do it all at once, and I like to do one kid at a time. And so I'll sit down and we'll choose to do 3 out of those 10 subjects at once, and then I'll have the kids switch and I'll do it with the other one. Once you hit 4th grade with this particular test, it's a whole lot more independent with the student. So I'm just sitting in the room with the timer, keeping an eye out, because if you write in their state books, it will cost you, they will fine you $50. We haven't been fined, but that's because I'm sitting right there watching and keeping an eye on that pencil, because all of that material you then send back and then they reuse. And so obviously you can't be marking up the test book. They will also include a what to send back list. So they will send you an invoice note here, but then they're also going to have another one so you know exactly what they're expecting you to ship back to them. So typically for our state test week, I'll go ahead and let my kids decide who goes first and who goes second. I like to do one at a time, and I'll let the kids pick out a candle scent. I have a lot of candles. I have a favorite candle company. And so I'll pick out a test scent that they want to use for the day. They also enjoy picking out my coffee mugs. So I'll let them get to pick that, whoever's going first that day. And then we'll just sit down and we'll only do maybe 3 out of the 10 subjects per day. And then I'll switch and do it with the other kid. Almost always, my kids will finish before the allotted time is done. They typically give you more time than necessary to finish a subject. So for example, math I think is 40 or 50 minutes, and my kids can have it done in maybe 30. And so there's always a lot of extra time. And so what I like to do is just say, hey, if you're getting stuck on a certain problem, let's just move on. Let's finish it out, and then at the very end, you're probably going to have a lot of time left. You can go back to that one and give it some more thought and work. And that seems to work out pretty well. I do really try to help my kids understand that this is not meant to be a stressful experience. We only do this because it's required. Otherwise, I don't really care. And the other nice thing is nobody's actually looking at these results. And so it's just to check off of the checklist that this is a requirement and we're doing it, and that's that. But so when you get the results back, they'll just come in an envelope, and there will only be 1 page per student with the results. So it's not a whole bunch of pages, which is really nice. It will explain how to read the grades and understand what they're saying, and then you'll just have 1 page per kid. Looks a bit like that. And that's all that is. So they will write down, they'll share with all the 10 subjects what they got, how many answers were marked, the number of questions, and then the percentage of how many they got right. and then they're going to give a grade equivalent and then a scaled score. On the top, they're going to have what they call total battery. I don't know why they call it that, but that's basically an average of the 10 tests, kind of where your kid lands. Now, one thing that's on here with the grade equivalent that can be kind of confusing, for example, let's just throw out an example for spelling. So if you have your third grader take a third grade spelling test and it comes back as a grade equivalent of, say, 5.2. What that means is that if a fifth grader in their second month were having taken that third grade state test, that's the results that they would have gotten. And it doesn't mean that your third grader was getting tested on fifth grade spelling words. And so that can be a little bit confusing, but this first page that they have will help you kind of understand, and it'll kind of explain how to read that. So another example for science. If you had your first grader science and the grade equivalent for it said it was a 4.7, that would mean that it is basically saying if a fourth grader in their 7th month of school were having taken that first grade test, that's the results that they would have gotten. And so not that your first grader was being tested on 4th grade science. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. And then they also have at the top a national percentile ranking, and that's kind of interesting, I suppose, to look at. So at the end of the day, we get these results. I share them with my mom, I share them with my mother-in-law, and then they go in a cupboard, and that's all. Nobody else sees them. I mean, my husband sees them, but other than that, we don't share them around. We don't do anything. There's nobody we have to give this to prove that we're homeschooling. If anybody were to ask, we have them, but nobody checks in on people about this. And so that is it. Another pretty easy video just about state testing. If you have questions, let me know. I don't know really anything about other states' requirements. I only know Washington State. But go ahead and check out those links I'm going to give. They're going to help you find your state law. And with Family Learning Organization, they do have a click area on their website where you can check your state laws to see if the 5 tests that they offer are accepted by your state. Again, if you are a family that wants to do an assessment, they also provide that service. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks. Bye.